There we go. We're recording. So,
Hey guys, don't
um,
say anything bad.
this is the app. My mic is on. Well, I'm recording it on OBS on a different program. But
That's why
look,
she's in.
my mic's moving right now. Look at that.
That's why she's in CIT.
Actually, my gain is a little high. Let me turn it down. Okay, so this is the app that we have right now as of October 6th, 2025. Um, if you click, if you click on this,
25 seconds.
if you click on a recipe that's listed here, you'll see that on the debug console, it actually has logic already when you click on something. It doesn't do anything, but it says that you clicked on it. There's all these extra screens, but they're not implemented yet. They're just it's just an element that is put at the center of the screen that just has text. That's all it is. And so that's what we have for the app so far. Um, and I want to lead you guys through the structure of the project.
Yeah,
So everything that we actually care about is mainly going to be in pubspec.yaml and in lib. These are basically the only two things we care about. Um, PubSpec, this is the thing. This is the file when it first starts up, it's going to look here for information about the project and things that it needs to download beforehand. So it's a recipe manager. It's meant to manage and share recipes. And then if you go down here, um, this is the environment for the STK that we're working on right now. I have it set like this so that anyone using Flutter version 4 and below will be able to do it just for compatibility. For dependencies, these are the main dependencies that our app is going to require in order to run. So obviously we need Flutter. And so in here, Flutter, it lists the SDK as Flutter. We have the Supabase Flutter SDK, and this is the latest version right now, 2.10.2. And this basically tells the project, okay, when you run it, make sure we have this dependency. If we don't, download it. And then path is something that allows us to modify the file system of the app, like platform independent, which means that the methods and stuff provided here are going to work on iOS, Mac, um, Windows, Android, everything. So this is it's just a common way for us to use paths, and that's pretty much it. And then these are like icons, and then dev dependencies we don't need to worry about. That's where Preston put stuff before, but this is where thing like when we ship the code, it wouldn't actually go there. It wouldn't like get included with the production code. This is just for debugging. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. And so that's pubspec.yaml. That's just the home base of like this is the project. Do you have a question?
Yeah. That's how the
Oh yeah.
everything.
So right now I still have it running, but if I were to restart it like that, you would, in order to run the project, you can either push F5 on your keyboard, or you can click on main.dart and click on the debug button right here.
Mhm.
Or you can go here on the run and debug tab and click on the play button that's around here. And yep,
Make
it
sure you're
loaded.
opening to web though.
Yep. Yeah, so just yeah, that's actually a really good point. So what before you run the app, you need to there's a couple things that you should do. I don't know if it does this automatically, but I if you do Control Shift P, which opens up the command palette, or if you do File or View command palette is the same thing. This is where it has this autofill thing where you can run what's it called? Commands. And so pub get packages, what that does is that it goes through and it gets the dependencies and downloads it. That's pretty much all it does, so that you are like up to date. I don't know if when you debug it, it does that automatically, but it at least works for me. I do that and then I debug it. After you clone the repository and you have it on your system, you want to do Flutter select device. And when you click on that, it'll list all of the available devices that you have on your computer. It could say Windows like mine, it could say Mac OS, or it could have Chrome or Edge, which are web browsers. So currently, I have Edge selected as my web interface, and I think that's what we're going to go for this project because everyone has a web browser, and it's just too messy trying to mess with this Android emulator stuff or platform independent things because it's just difficult. So I think shifting to a web app would be good. So you want to click on that, and then you could also go down here on the bottom right where it says it would say no device here initially, but you can click it and it'll show up this menu still that says you can select what device you want. And so that is how to run the project. To actually get in there and start modifying things, main.dart is like your main file that like project program execution starts from. So it's just like your main.cpp or whatever in C++ or C# or whatever. So it starts out with some import statements. Material.dart, I believe, is the basic building block of widgets inside of Flutter, which is what Flutter mainly uses in order to add things to the screen, is that everything's technically a widget. And you'll see more what that means in a second. And then we have import package supabase Flutter, supabase flutter.dart. This tells the app, okay, we've imported supabase and now we want to use it in our project. So we're going to import it, and now we have access to all of these supabase structures and functions and things like that. And then this import package recipe manager screens main screen.dart is that's within our screens folder, and this is the main screen that we're going to load into when we go down here. So this is the main function. This is where the app starts. Um, this first one here, this first line, makes sure that all of the widgets are initialized. It's just kind of housekeeping stuff. And then this await Superbase uh, initializes Superbase with our project URL and anon key. And so I'm actually going to show you really quickly over here. If we go to Supabase and we go to project settings and API key or data API. Yeah, data API. This is the project URL right here. This is says RESTful endpoint for querying and managing your database. This is how it knows where to go. And then down in API keys, this is the public anonymous key. So this one is basically, I think, just read only. You can't actually push anything. We're likely going to modify this in the future so that we can actually use things. There's also a bunch more API keys here, like publishable key. Um, I don't really know anything about that yet, but for now, this just lets us read what's happening in the database. Can't modify it, but we can read it. And anyone has access to it on the internet. And so that's what this does. So we're gonna do supabase.initialize, put in the URL, and then the anon key. And this one's really so that's where it goes. And then run app const my app. And so then that goes to this line into this class. So my app extends stateless widget. Now, the difference between a stateful and stateless widget is that a stateless widget doesn't have any member variables in it. So it's kind of like it just it doesn't remember anything. It just runs code. Whereas a stateful widget, you can put in a variable there and it will remember it as it continues to loop and like as the app executes and stuff. So, but because this is where the app starts, it doesn't need to remember anything right now. I don't really know what this line does, but it's in every single class, so I assume it's important. And then this is where kind of stuff starts to begin. Widget build context. This is where it starts to display stuff to the screen. So the first thing it does is it return everything kind of works from the inside out, you'll notice. And so on the inside here, we have material app, and this has three different attributes in it inside of this function. And you can hover over anything and it'll start to say what it does, and you'll see it has like title, color, theme. You can modify stuff by basically writing any of these in there and then just putting whatever it says the data type is. So for title, it's a string. And then the question mark means I think it can be null. So you don't have to set a title, but you can. So that's what this does. And then theme data, this just changes the colors of the app. This is where I think our graphics UI person is going to come into play, is colors and how things look and everything. Use Material 3, I think, is just an updated version of whatever this thing is. And then the home, this is where, so with the Material app, this is like the base. Like this is just like the screen. It's going to set the home to main screen. And that is going to direct our execution to main screen.dart. because this is where main screen lives. So now the app's loaded. It's like, all right, now let's go to the home page, and this is it. Main screen extends stateful widget. And the reason why is because it needs to be able to remember the state of the app as it executes. And so that's what this is. Uh, and then when a so that's why it's a stateful widget. And then this here is where it says main screen state extends a state, and it's the main screen. Um, the way that this class works is that it's almost like a vector or a list where um, inside here there's a bunch of widget options, and this is to give you a look. This technically the only part of the home screen or the main screen is technically just this bottom bar, and then this is what is like being loaded in afterwards. And so it'll kind of make more sense in a minute. So basically, we start with an integer where the selected index is 0. And 0 is going to be our recipe list screen because this is a list of widgets. It's called widget options. And then this is where the syntax kind of starts to, you recognize it because these braces represent a list. And then the type that's inside this list is widget. And so all of these are widgets. So this class, which it lives inside recipe list screen. This is a class. And then all of these also count, even though they're not their own classes, these are still widgets. A scaffold is kind of just like a really basic building block for a lot of the aspects of the app. And so right now, so what you'll see is that we have text shopping list screen. And so if we go to shopping list, that's what it says right here. And then that's encapsulated by center and so then that center makes it in the center of the screen. And then the body or the scaffold that basically is saying, okay, we have text that's a child of center, which is in the body of scaffold. And scaffold is like the thing that kind of holds mostly everything. So that's how a lot of the structure of a Flutter app looks like, is that you kind of work from the inside out. So yeah, and then that's what this index is for, is that it starts at 0, so it's going to be recipe list screen, and then it goes down. It takes I think it's down here. So we start to build. We have a scaffold. We have in the body of the scaffold is this center widget, and the child of the center widget is widget options element at selected index is 0. And so that's going to say, okay, let me look at this. Let me, this is the list, and then this is the index of 0. Oh, recipe list screen. We're going to go ahead and make recipe list screen a child of this. And so that's where it would go here. This is where it starts. And then down here, so we have scaffold, which has a body, and then it also has a bottom navigation bar. And that's something that I included myself. I found it online. And then bottom navigation bar is its own class that has its own parameters that you can do a lot of different things with. Um, by making the type fixed, that makes it so that when you like when you stretch this, it doesn't make any of the like list items here go away. If I were to remove it, it would make it go away. And so that's what the fix does. And then the items within the navigation bar, um, this is where it's a list of bottom navigation bar items. And so all of these are individual items. So the first one is bottom navigation bar item, icon, book, label, recipes. And so that's a book, it says recipes. And then we have the next item, it's an icons.shopping cart, and then grocery list. And boom, it's right there. If I wanted to, this kind of sucks about the web version is that if you edit things here and then save it, it's not going to update instantly, which is kind of a shame because I like it when it updates instantly and you can kind of just like change something, look at it, change something, look at that. But if we wanted to see a change, we would have to restart the whole thing. But yeah, so it goes down like this, and then that's all of our bottom navigation bar items. And then uh, current index, selected index, this is what tells, oh, I just moved stuff. this is what tells the bottom navigation bar which one to keep highlighted. So if I click on this, it knows the current index is 0, so it's going to keep this highlighted. And then selected item color, it's going to use theme of like the context of the app and then the primary color. So this is how themes usually work, is that um, it uses like one color and then it makes palette based off of that one color automatically, which is kind of nice if you want to keep it cohesive. And then on tap, it runs this function called on item tapped. And if we were to go to the definition of it, it's right here. On item tapped, index, set state, changes the selected index to index. And that's what we skipped past over here, is that this was a function defined within main screen state. So when you click, it's like, oh, let me find that function. Here it is. Let me set the state, and then it makes the selected index the current index that you clicked on. So yeah, that's the home screen. Is there any questions so far about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. What is that request for the information for the data set for our data?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get to that right now, actually. So recipe list screen, this is going to be where we start to see the soup-based stuff come in. Because up to this point, we want to keep the database stuff like relevant to only the parts of the app that care about it, you know? And so the way it's set up right now isn't optimal, but this is just how it works at the moment.
Yeah.
So we have these import statements again. This time it includes the recipe list item widget. So this is my own widget that I made, and we'll get into that in a second. And this also includes Flutter.dart, because you'll notice on the main screen here, we actually don't even include Flutter, the Supabase thing, because it doesn't use Supabase at all. So it starts being used right here. Um, so yeah, recipe list screen, it's the same thing. It's a stateful widget. It needs to remember its state. And then down here, this is why it's a stateful widget, because this is where we start to get stuff. Final means that the variable is immutable. You can't change it. So maybe this will change when we start to get into the CRUD stuff where you want to create and update and do things with the database. But for now, because we're read only with the public anonymous API, um, doing it any other way wouldn't even have an effect, because we can't, with our current API, we can't change anything. So as of right now, um, final underscore future, and underscore future kind of makes it a private variable, if that makes sense, where it only exists within this context of this class. And so as soon as the class is over, it's going to forget it.
So it's going to only exist for yes.
Exactly. And so it sets this underscore future to supabase.instance.client. And then this is where this is where it contacts the database. And then it's going to say, okay, which table do you want to look at? And right now it's set to recipes, because if we go to the table editor, that's what it's called. It's called recipes. And then um, it's going to select it. And it says here the definition is you perform a select query on the table review. So now we're getting into actual database stuff. This is where the API is all like segmented away, so we don't have to take care of it. Select already does the select query for us. We don't have to do our own MySQL stuff. It's just there. So this performs the query, and now that's stored inside a future. Um, and then so everything here is going to be everything above the navigation bar. This is what all of this stuff is. So it starts with a scaffold. And actually, if you use the widget tree, you can actually click on stuff here. If we were to click on scaffold, then we go in here. Maybe that's the wrong one. Recipe list screen. Oh, I don't think it does it on the web app. Usually the inspector lets you click on something and then it shows you what part of the app you're looking at, but I don't think it works for web. But basically, um, the recipe list screen is everything on the top here. Um, it's oh wait, I think we're on the I clicked on a different. Here we go. We're back here. So the recipe list screen has a scaffold which holds everything. The body of the scaffold is this future builder. I just learned about this. The future builder it waits for something to happen before it loads, which is why if we were to click off and then click back in, you see how it has that loading screen? Is because it's waiting for the Supabase database to come back and to contact our app again. So we click on this, makes a query, boom, it shows up. It's really quick. That's how it works. And that's why it's Future Builder, because it builds it before it's ready. So that's why we set the future as underscore future. And then builder context snapshot. I don't necessarily know what all this does yet, but basically the snapshot, if we've received the data, if we haven't received the data yet, because this is the not thing, it's going to just return center, and then the child of the center is circular progress indicator, which is this thing. It's the circle. That's how that was implemented. Um, and because it returns, it'll go on. But if that returns false, if it does have data, then that means it can continue with execution here. And so this immutable variable called recipes then is set to snapshot.data. Now that snapshot has like a snapshot of the database. It takes however the database looks like in that moment, like snaps a shot, and then stores it inside of this recipes. Um, and then safe area, this is a widget that is kind of more for phones. It's where it'll ask the operating system what part of this screen is being covered by stuff. And so that would include like the time and the notch and like the your Wi-Fi and stuff. It'll basically say like, okay, within the safe area of the app, so it doesn't like overlap on anything. We're gonna have a child of list view builder. List view is it's a widget that holds a list of list tiles. And so, and that's kind of in here. If we go to recipe list item, it's a list tile. And this is, it's a widget that specifically just holds these kinds of things. Um, so yeah, it's going to build it. The list view, the item count, we want it to be set to the number of rows inside of recipes inside the table. And so that's going to return one right now. The item builder is going to take the context and then the current index that we're at right now. Because usually this is kind of like a for statement. And so but it's going to do it for you. And so the index will increment automatically. It'll take the recipe, it'll take a new recipe and set it to recipes of index. And because it's zero, it's going to look at the database. It's going to know that this is the zero index of the database. It's going to set that recipe equal to this thing. And then it's going to be passed to recipe list item as a type recipe called recipe. And then it's going to be like, all right, you go there, get the item, and bring it back. And that's everything for that screen. This is the last part now with 3 minutes remaining. So inside of widget here, we have the Supabase Flutter.dart and then material because we want to use the database and we want to be able to make stuff. This is a stateless widget because it doesn't need to remember anything because it's just going to pass in just the widget, like how it looks. And so this is technically the data type of the recipe. It's not a recipe item. It's just a Postgres map, which is like Supabase's thing of like it's just a it's kind of like a dictionary. It's literally a map. It's a map of a string with a dynamic data type on the end. So it could be an integer, could be a varchar, could be anything. And so then this is it instantiates the item right here. This is the constructor, and then we start building it. The card is the kind of outline around here that you see for the item. Let me actually blow this up a little bit. It's this card item here. And then inside of card, again, you can look at if you can hover over it and see all of these different things that you can change about it. So one of the things that I changed is margin. And so margin, it sets it so that it's got just a margin of 8 pixels with 4 pixels on top. And then the child of card is a list tile. And then the list tile has a few different parts of it. It has leading, so it has the circle avatar. That's this little circle thing here. And then the circle avatar has its own things here. One of them is background color. It sets to the primary color of the theme. Child, it's going to inside of the leading aspect of the list tile, it's going to have text. and it's going to take the recipe, the name of the recipe at, um, yeah, the first, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the first letter of the name. So that's why it's C, because it grabs this, grabs the first index of the string, and boom, right there. And then it sets the text style, which is just making it white. This is all it does. It just makes the text white. And then that's everything for the leading section. Then we get to the title section where we have a text object, and the text object takes a string of data and a bunch of other stuff. So this is the string, the name. It sets the style to a text style where it sets the font weight to bold. So that's all saying we're gonna, in the title, we're gonna list the title, the name of the recipe, and bolden it. And then in the subtitle, that's going to be this bottom section here. Um, this makes it so that it aligns to the left. And then the children of column is going to be, this is another list. And so you can you can nest things basically infinitely in Flutter. And so children, it's a list of items in this column. The column makes it so that things kind of are side by side, I think. So it starts with the text, recipe description of max of 2 lines, which is why it cuts off. And then it says overflow. We want it to have an ellipses right there. And then below the text, we want another row. So it gets even deeper. You can really nest things as much as you want. So inside of this row, we're going to have children of multiple kinds. So we're going to have an icon of a timer. That's the timer. We're going to have a sized box of 4, and then have a text thing where it formats it. It says recipe cook time in minutes, and that's 10 minutes. Oh, and so this is just spacing. This is spacing to separate the icon from the text. So spacing, icon of the fire, spacing, and then calories, and then kcal right after that. And then on tap, this is just print tapped on recipe name. And that's what you guys have been seeing the whole time is down here. That's what this line is doing. And that is the entire app right now. That's literally everything that we have written so far. So we're 1 minute over time, but that's pretty much it. I hope that kind of made sense. It's Flutter works with widgets, and you can use those widgets to nest them instead of other widgets that do things. ChatGPT helped a lot with this. It's not a bad thing. Um, do you guys have any other questions overall?
Oh, I just thinking that for the database, maybe would be the best to take a look at this. I mean, we can just write it down in
True.
case
Well,
because we're going to need to do a lot of relationships between recipes and ingredients.
true. Well, well, something that we could do, for example, is inside of a recipe, we would add a new column, and then this could be I'm sure there's like some kind of list thing here, right? Or an array. Where is that?
Yeah, but there is one.
Okay, well, basically, we could have it just be like one of the columns of a recipe is that it has a list of ingredients, and then we could just, I don't know. There's a lot of ways we can do it. I'm not experienced with databases and stuff, but you know, even right now, we like the instructions right here are like that. So I don't know. There's a lot of things we could do. That's just an overview of how Flutter works in general. And so I hope that helped. I hope that helped. And I guess we don't really have time to assign things today, but okay.
Like the screens and stuff.
So yeah, so basically the next step now would be to make so we should probably have it so that when you click on the recipe, it comes up with a new widget on top of everything that has like all of the details listed like one by
Screen.
a new screen, exactly. And then that would be
Have like a yeah.
exactly.
That'd be
So
nice.
that would be because I think we want to like get down the recipe screen first, like and then we want to be able to make recipes. So we're going to have to change the API to let us modify the database, and then you know right now it's synced between everyone, but ideally we want to have everyone have their own recipe list too. So that's where the user section comes in with Supabase. So yeah, but those are all things down the line. We'll figure that out eventually.
I'm going to populate it the database.
Recipes. Okay, sounds good.
I'll take a look at it. Try to see